जातं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनीति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी
Sarayasingpurvi.
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, thanks for joining. We have been a break for 2 weeks where I think I was quite busy with Rath Yatra and things. Now, all good, let's continue. So, I'll just give a quick recap on chapter 28. So that we are back in the context. So, okay, let's go back a bit. Not 28, in fact, let's go to chapter summary of 3-4 chapter before. Yeah. So we'll just do quick recap on these few chapters, 5 chapters, and then we'll come back on the context. So we saw in chapter 24 where Prachinavar is he had his sons Prachetas, and then when he asked them to take up the family life, they went for austerity, and eventually Lord Shiva appeared before them, and then Lord Shiva guided them. The Prachetas they did 10,000 years of austerity. Yeah, and while Prachetas were doing austerity, then we saw that Narada Muni always been compassionate to all the people in general, and he saw that King Prachinabhari said, or Prachinabhari, who is kind of engaged in animal sacrifice, kind of following karma kanda. So he wanted to advise him that give up karma kanda and take Krishna bhakti. So to do that, instead of guiding him directly, he took another way. He shared a story, a metaphorical story of King Puranjana to Prachinabhari. Basically, this is the story of the all jivas. More specifically, he was trying to share the story of Prachinabhari himself to Prachinabhari. So he took a name of King Puranjana. And then we saw that King Puranjana story is the body and the senses, and then how he got married with his wife Puranjini. And then in 26th chapter we saw King Puranjana went out to forest, basically the engaging the senses in instant gratification, right? And then when he came back, his queen Puranjini, she got angry. Somehow or other he managed to calm down Puranjini, and we understand the point that the jiva coming to spiritual life is kind of coming back from sense gratification. And however, in next chapter we saw he spent a lot of time engaging in still with the family. He has many children, and meanwhile he forgot, he could not realize, not forget in fact, he could not realize that old age has come. Chandavega has attacked. Yeah, and he was quite old. So now that's a very very brief of this chapter. So we discussed elaborately in few previous months. So coming back to chapter 28, where we saw that Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life. Yeah, in that chapter we have continued till text 37. We'll continue from here today. We'll just give a quick recap of this chapter, what happened. So Puranjana he was attacked by Prajwara, which is very high fever, and the Kalakanya and the Yavanas, they attacked the whole city. City means Puranjana. City means, who is Puranjana? Puranjana is the body, Jiva itself, right? And the body is the city of the Puranjana. So he was attacked by the old age, the uh, fever of death, and like that, right? And he was so much in anxiety. He was completely weak. His life air, the snakes, right? They still try to fight, but they are being, subdued by the fire of Prajwara. Yeah, and then it again arose fear in him, and though he was overly attached to his wife, Puranjana started lamenting about his wife and children. Yeah, and eventually we saw that Puranjana's, he died. And when Puranjana died, because he was thinking of his wife, he got another body as a princess called as Vaidharvi in his next life. And Vaidharvi, he see basically Puranjana becomes the Puranjana king becomes now the princess Vaidharvi. She got married to king of Maladhvaja, right? And then I think both Maladhvaja and Vaidharvi, they they expanded their progeny, and then finally they went for to the forest as a vanaprastha. So we'll continue from there today. What happens next? Yeah. So basically, Maladhvaja he went. So that is basically text 33 onwards somewhere. Yeah. Here, this great saintly king Maladhvaja divided his entire kingdom among his sons. Then, in order to worship Lord Krishna with full attention, he went in a place called as Kulachala. And his wife, good wife, Vaidharvi. Vaidharvi is Puranjini in his previous life, right? She also followed, and then they went for austerity. Yeah. So this is the very, very brief to be in the context. Let us continue from here. Text 27. Sorry, text 37. शीतोष्णवात वर्षाणि क्षुक्ति पीपाशि प्रिया प्रिये सुख दुखे इति द्वन्द्वेन अजया समदर्शना. Yes, Kishori Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Through austerity, King Malayadwaja in body and mind gradually became equal to the dualities of cold and heat, happiness and distress, wind and rain, hunger and thirst, the pleasant and the unpleasant. In this way, he conquered all relativities.
1 second. Yeah. So both Vaidharvi and her husband Malayadwaja, they went to austerity, and then how they were conquered their mind and also conquered the dualities of this world. Dualities is cold, heat, happiness, distress, and everything. Liberation means becoming free from the relatives of the world. Relatives, not relatives, relativities of the world. Unless one is self-realized, he has to undergo the dual struggle of the relative world. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna advises Arjuna to conquer all relativities through tolerance. Yeah. Sitoshna Sukha Dukha, Krishna says, right? So Lord Krishna points out that it is relativities like winter and summer that give us trouble in the material world. In the winter, we do not like taking a bath, but in the summer, we wish to take bath twice, thrice, or maybe more. Thus, Krishna advises us not to be disturbed by such relativities and dualities when they come and go. The common man has to undergo much austerity to become equipoise before dualities. One who becomes agitated by the relativities of life has accepted a relative position and must therefore undergo the austerities prescribed in the Shastras to transcend the material body and put an end to the material existence. King Malayadhwaja underwent severe austerities by leaving his home, going to Kulashala, taking his bath in the sacred rivers, and eating only vegetables like stems, roots, seeds, flowers, and leaves, avoiding any cooked food or grains. These are very, very austere practices. In this age, it is very difficult to leave home and go to forest or the Himalayas to adopt the process of austerity, isn't it? It's literally quite difficult. Indeed, it is almost impossible. If one is even advised to give up meat eating, drinking, gambling, and illicit sex, one will fail to do so. I mean, so what to speak of going to Himalayas and performing austerities? What then would a person do if he went to Himalayas or Kulashala? Such acts of renunciation are not possible in this age. Therefore, Lord Krishna has advised us to accept the Bhakti Yoga process. Bhakti Yoga will automatically liberate a person from the dualities of life. In Bhakti Yoga, Krishna is the center and Krishna is always transcendental. Thus, in order to transcend dualities, one must always engage in the service of the Lord, as confirmed by Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mam choyo vivicarena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatit etan brahma bhutaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. If one is factually engaged in the service of the Lord, Bhakti Yoga, he will automatically control his senses, his tongue, and so many other things. Once engaged in the Bhakti Yoga process with all sincerity, one will have no chance of falling down. See, very beautiful Prabhupada says, once engaged in Bhakti Yoga process with all sincerity. So what we need is sincerity, isn't it? Rupa Goswami says, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati Kriyatam Yadi Kutopi Labhyate. So this Krishna Bhakti, if you find somewhere, anywhere it's available, then without a second thought you should buy it. And how to buy this Krishna Bhakti, he says, Rupa Goswami says, na laulyam api ekamolyam koti janma sukruti na labhyate. Rupa Goswami says that bhakti, one cannot get bhakti even by koti janma, millions of lifetimes sukruti. Sukruti is what? Sukruti has two definitions. One sukruti is devotional sukruti. That is very good. One sukruti is we get by performing pious activity. Sometimes the piety is also called a sukruti. So piety means pious activities performed in our millions of lifetime. By performing only pious activity, like performing, let's say I'm just helpful to everyone, like that, being a very gentle, good person, always being helpful to everyone. Even with that piety, which are very, very good in this world, even by performing that also, bhakti is rare. We cannot get bhakti. So how can we get bhakti? Rupa Goswami says, laulyam api ekamulyam. Laulyam, the greediness, the greed to understand Krishna, the greed to take the path of prescribed by the acharyas. That's the only cost we need to pay to get Krishna Bhakti. But that's very difficult to pay actually, isn't it? That greed is needed. And then Prabhupada says that if someone practices with all sincerity, one will have no chance of falling down. Even if one falls down, there is no loss. One's devotional activities may be stunned or choked by the time being, for the time being, but as soon as there is another chance, the practitioner begins from the point where he left off. So if you earn money, if you lose money, you'll have to earn again completely, right? As soon as we give up this body, in the next body, we have to study again, get the degrees again, and all the things. But wherever we have, or whatever amount of bhakti we have performed, as soon as we get another chance, the bhakti starts from that point. That's why we see many people, they take up the path of bhakti very quickly. We see, oh, this person has joined last month only, but now he's chanting 16 rounds. How could it possible? Because this person has done in his previous life. That is continuing from there. And some people we see, they continue for years and years, still struggling to give up, as Prabhupada says, here, meat eating, drinking, gambling, illicit sex. So this is how the mechanism of bhakti yoga goes. We can't actually understand who can become bhakta at what time. Yeah. So Malayadhwaja and Vaidharvi, they both went for austerity to the forest, and they fixed they conquered their dualities. Okay, text 38. Tapasa vidya pakva kashayo yame yuje brahmane atmanam vijitakshani lakshaya nilashaya. Rupesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. By worshipping, executing austerities, and following the regulative principles, King Malayadvaja conquered his senses, his life, and his consciousness. Thus, he fixed everything on the central point of the Supreme Brahman, Krishna.
Yeah, this is everything. We have to fix everything as a central point to Krishna. That is the end goal. Enakena pakarena mana Krishna niveshada. By whatsoever the process is, by whatever the way we find, we need to bring our senses into Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Whenever the word Brahman appears, the impersonalists take this to mean the impersonal effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti. Actually, however, Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahma, is Krishna, Vasudeva. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.19, Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Vasudeva extends everywhere as the impersonal Brahman. One cannot fix one's mind upon an impersonal or something. Bhagavad Gita 12.5 therefore says, Kleshodhikarastas tesham vyakta sakta chetasam. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. Right? So Krishna actually in Gita, he explains everything, isn't it? Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And he says that Bhakti Yoga is the topmost one. And again, in this Prabhupada's quoting 12.5, where Krishna is saying that this path of yogic practice or jnana is, its advancement is very troublesome. And we see this in Canto 3 also, when Kapil Deva describes to Mother Devati about devotional service. There also he says that without devotional service, even the jnanis and the yogis, they cannot get perfection in Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. There's always a hidden aspect of Bhakti Yoga in the jnanis and yogis. If they try to eliminate that tinge of bhakti from Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, they won't be able to perfect their sadhana. Right? And in Bhakti Yoga, by default, Jnana and Vairagya is already there present. Right? They are two sons, Jnana and Vairagya. So consequently, when it is said herein that the king Malyadhwaja fixed his mind on the Brahman means the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Vasudeva. Yeah. We see the same context in Dhruva Maharaj. When Dhruva Maharaj, Lord Krishna as a Paramatma, he gave, when Dhruva Maharaj was completely meditating, fully absorbed, trying to see the Lord within his heart, Lord Krishna, in his heart, he gave darshan for a few seconds and then he disappeared. And then, Dhruva Maharaj tried again to meditate on the same process to see Lord there, but he could not. And then as soon as he opened his eye, he could see the Lord standing in front of him. So basically, the personal form of the Lord is all there, and we have to meditate on that form. Okay, text 39. आस्ते स्थाणुरिवैकत्र दिव्यं वर्षशतं स्थितैः वासुदेवे भगवती नान्यद्वेदवद्वनरतिम्. Tell Mataji. Okay, Urla Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
In this way, he stayed immovable in one place for 100 years by the calculation of demigods. After this time, he developed pure devotional attraction for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and remained fixed in that position. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So basically, meditating on the Supreme Lord, he's completely attached, or become kind of, he developed rati towards the Lord, right? Prabhupada is quoting this verse again, 719, where he quoted here itself as well, 719. He says that Bahunam Janamanam Ante Jnanvan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samatma Sudurlabha. After many births and death, he who is actually in knowledge and surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is, such a great soul is very rare. Is Sudurlava, he says, it's the rarest of rare actually. So Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna is everything, and one who knows this is the greatest of all transcendentalists. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that one realizes this after many, many births. This is also confirmed in this verse with the word Divyam Varsha Satam. 100 years according to calculation of the demigod. And according to calculation of the demigod, 1 day is 12 hours. 1 day or 12 hours is equal to 6 months on earth. Right? So 1 day, or you can say 24 hour of Devatas is actually 1 year on earth. Means 1 day is equal to 1 year, you can say. So you can imagine it's 100 years in calculation of demigod. So 100 years of demigod would be equal to 36,000 earth years. So 36,000 years, both Malyadhwaja and Vaidharvi, they practice austerity. Yeah. Okay, 1 second. No problem, Mataji. That's okay. Yeah. Okay. So this confirms that the conclusion of Krishna. To come to the conclusion of Krishna consciousness and remain fixed in the realization that Krishna is everything, as well as render service unto Krishna, are characteristics of the perfectional stage. As said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22:62, Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Very beautiful verse actually. Just by performing Krishna Bhakti, everything is done. Sarva Karma. It says Sarva Karma, everything. Everything is perfected by performing Krishna Bhakti. When one comes to the conclusion that Krishna is everything, by worshipping or by rendering devotional service unto Krishna, one actually becomes perfect in all respects. Not only must one come to the conclusion that Krishna is everything, but he must remain fixed this perfection that King Maladhwaja attained at the end. Yeah, beautifully. He was completely absorbed in Vasudeva. Okay, text 40. सव्यापकतयात्मानं व्यतिरिक्ततयैर्तत्मनि विद्वान् स्वप्नन् इवामर्षा शक्तिशं विरमाः. Advait Krishna Prabhu.
King Malayadhwaj attained perfect knowledge by being able to distinguish the super soul from the individual soul. The individual soul is localized, whereas the super soul is all-pervasive. He became perfect in knowledge that the material body is not the soul, but that the soul is the witness of the material body.
Beautiful, isn't it? So there are two things. It's quite difficult for people to realize that there is a soul and there is a super soul. But by fixing mind in the Vasudeva, doing austerity, Maladhwaja and Vaidyavidya could realize the difference between the soul and individual, soul and the super soul. Yeah. So Prabhupada says the conditioned soul is often frustrated in trying to understand the distinctions between the material body, the super soul, and the individual soul. There are two types of Mayavadi philosophers: the followers of the Buddhist philosophy and the followers of the Sankara philosophy. The followers of Buddha do not recognize that there is anything beyond this body. And the followers of Sankara conclude that there is no separate existence of Paramatma, the super soul. They believe that the individual soul is identical with the Paramatma in the ultimate analysis. But the Vaishnava philosopher, who is the perfect in knowledge, knows that the body is made up of external energy and that the super soul or Paramatma or the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sitting with the individual soul and is distinct from him, as Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 13.3. Yeah, Krishna explains about this Kshetragya over there. No? Kshetragya chapi mam vidhi sarvam kshetreshu bharata kshetragyanyor jnanam yat taj jnanam matam mama. Ocean of Bharata, you should understand that I am the knower of all. I am the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its owner is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Yeah, the body is taken to be the field, and the individual soul is taken to be the worker in that field. Yet there is another who is known as the super soul, who, along with the individual soul, simply witnesses. The individual soul works and enjoys the fruit of the body, whereas the super soul simply witnesses the activities of the individual soul, but does not enjoy the fruits of those activities. Actually, there's a verse in Shastra where it says, there's in the tree there is a branch, and in the branch there are two birds sitting, and one bird is engaged completely in enjoying the fruits of the tree, and the other bird is just sitting beside and witnessing it. So that's how in this body the soul and super soul both are there. Super soul is just witnessing our activities, and the soul is engaged in all kinds of enjoying it, either sense gratification or performing devotional service, or depending upon how he engages himself in the three modes. Yeah. So King Maladhwaja attained this perfection of knowledge and was able to distinguish between the soul and the super soul and the soul and the body. Prabhupada says that we should understand these three things very clearly. Who am I? So basically understanding between the soul and the material body. Who am I? I am not the material body. I am the spiritual spark or soul. Then understand between the soul and super soul. Who is Supreme Lord? Who is Supreme? And who am I? Distinguish between these two. Right? And third, he says that try to understand the relationship between the soul and the super soul. Right? I repeat the thing. understand between soul and mental body first. Second is understand the super soul and the soul. And third is understand the relationship between the super soul and the soul. These three things are the basic of bhakti, and to understand these three things, sometimes, as Krishna says, it becomes a lifetime for Gyanis to understand and to come to this conclusion. Vasudevam sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. Okay, text 41. Now, as they have performed for 100 celestial years, right, 36,000 years as per our earthly calculation, after performing this much, and they were this both Maladhwaja and Vaidarvi, they could actually attained, I would say basically get attached to the form of Lord, and they could understand the spiritual knowledge. They could distinguish between the soul and the super soul. So let's see now what happens. Shakshad Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina Nripa Vishuddha Jnana Deepena Sprita Vishwato Mukham. Is the iPhone Devendra uncle? Okay. Kishori Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. In this way, King Malayadwaja attained perfect knowledge because in his pure state he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. Hare Krishna.
So when Krishna is there within our heart, isn't it? As super soul, and he guides us what the best for us, depending upon our inclinations towards him. Yeah. In this verse, the word Sakshad Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina are very significant, because this is called as Chaitya Guru. Krishna as a Paramatma become the Chaitya Guru, or sometimes also called as, he guides us depending on our intentions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead speaks directly to the individual soul when a devotee has completely purified himself by rendering devotional service to the Lord. And Lord Krishna confirms this also in Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesham sadata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam. Ye namam upayantite. Krishna says dadami buddhim yogam tam. He says, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. The Lord is the super soul seated in everyone's heart, and he acts as the Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within. However, he gives direct instructions only to the advanced pure devotees. In the beginning, when the devotee is serious and sincere, the Lord gives him directions from within to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Now we see the verse, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. So Krishna inspires us to go to or approach a bona fide spiritual teacher, and that spiritual teacher brings us back to Krishna. Yeah. So when one is trained by the spiritual master according to the regulative principles of devotional service and is situated on the platform of spontaneous attachment for the Lord, Raga Bhakti, the Lord also gives instructions from within. Tesam sadata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam. This distinct advantage is obtained by a liberated soul. Having attained this stage, King Maladhwaja was directly in touch with the Supreme Lord and was receiving instructions from him directly. Now, some people say, how can we speak with the Lord? So we can see example of here Maladhwaja, his Lord is speaking to him. Yeah, from within. From outside we saw, Krishna is speaking to Dhruv Maharaj, Krishna is speaking to Prahlad Maharaj, but here we can see example of how Krishna also directs us, guides us within as a super soul. Text 42. Pare Brahmani Chatmanam Param Brahma Tathatmani Vikshmano Vihayaksham Asmad Uparanamaha. Rupesh Prabhu?
King Malaya Vaja could thus observe that the super soul was sitting by his side, and that he, as the individual soul, was sitting by the side of the super soul. Since both were together, there was no need for separate interests. Thus, he ceased from such activities.
Yeah, nice one. So, in the advanced stage of devotional service, the devotee does not see anything separate between his own interest and those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Both interests become one, for the devotee does not act for a separate interest. Yeah. So it's being said that you know we should follow the plans of Krishna, then we won't be disappointed. Because if we follow the plan of our own self, and if we don't achieve it, we get disappointed. But if we follow the plan of Lord Krishna, then there is no disappointment, because both interests are the same. So both interests become one. Yeah. So whatever he does in the interest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the time, he sees everything in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in everything. So he sees everything in the Lord and the Lord in everything. Having attained this stage of understanding, he sees no distinction between the spiritual and the material world. This, Uttama Bhakta, right? They are on this platform. They do not see any distinction between the spiritual and material world, because they see everything as Krishna. Yeah. In perfect vision, the material world becomes the spiritual world due to its being the external energy of the Supreme Lord. For the perfect devotee, the energy and the energetic are non-different. Thus, the so-called material world becomes spiritual. Sarvam khalo idam Brahma. Everything is intended for the service of the Supreme Lord, and the expert devotee can utilize any so-called material things for the Lord's service. One cannot serve the Lord without being situated on the spiritual platform. Thus, if a so-called material thing is dovetailed in the service of the Lord, it is no longer be considered material. Yeah. This is how the pure devotee in his perfect vision sees from all angles. Yeah. High stage. So they have attained this stage. Yeah. Text 14. Now let's see what Vaidharvi, which is who was Prachinabhari in his previous birth. Sees. Patim param dharmagyam Patim parama dharmagya Vaidharvi malayadvajam Premna paryachara divya Bhogan sapati devata. Yes, Urmila Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The daughter of King Vidarbha accepted her husband all in all as the supreme. She gave up all sensual enjoyment and in complete renunciation followed the principle of her husband, who was so advanced. Thus she remained engaged in his service. Hare
Yeah. So
Krishna.
the Prachinabhari, not Prachinabhari, the Puranjana, who is Vedharvi now, yeah, who is the wife of this king Maladhwaja. She is following her nicely. Figuratively, King Maladhwaja is the spiritual master and his wife Vaidarvi is the disciple. The disciple accepts the spiritual master as the supreme personality of Godhead, as stated by Vishnu Chakra Thakur in Guru Ashtaka, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Sastra, right? We are saying it. One directly accepts the Guru, the spiritual master, as the supreme personality of Godhead. One should accept the spiritual master not in the sense that the Mayavadis philosophers do, but in the way recommended here. Since the spiritual master is the most confidential servant of the Lord, he should be treated exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master should never be neglected or disobeyed like an ordinary person. So, this is the understanding of accepting spiritual master as the Bhagavan. Like, it's not that, no, it's not understanding that we give him as a position of Bhagavan, but because he is a eternal servant or most confidential servant of the Lord, that's why he's treated as good as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. If a woman is fortunate enough to be the wife of a pure devotee, she can serve her husband without any desire for sense gratification. If she remains engaged in the service of her exalted husband, she will automatically attain the spiritual perfection of her husband. If a disciple gets one of her spiritual master, simply by satisfying him, he can attain the similar opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jai. I think we'll pause today here. We didn't have time to question, but anyway, anyone have any quick questions, comments? We can start tomorrow with any questions. Yeah, and continue from there. So, Hare Krishna. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Nice to have you back.
Oh yes, thank you. I'm I wanted to be back as well.
We've missed you so much.
Yeah, I mean the good thing was that I was not spacing out. I was in services, so that's a promising thing. But yes, I was missing studying Bhagavatam and our evening session for sure. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.